Okay, so I just got home from Bangkok and noticed that my microphone has been acting up. Here's what the raw output sounds like. It's pretty terrible, yeah. I've been fiddling around with Audacity to fix it, but my microphone's probably just broken at this point. On another note, can anyone tell me what this is?
So, the Curse Calling Circus 4 is being hosted by RJ Komenhoff or whatever, and a close friend of mine is telling me to participate in it again, even though this is my first time as far as I know. Anyways, excuse my voice acting, but why do I look like this? The guy I commissioned ghosted me. Anyways, scripts on the table. Masjodi is an international auxiliary language made by an economic committee, for whatever reason, to facilitate universal communication between mammals. By the way, if you're unaware, due to the vast distances involved, travel between civilizations of this scale are largely wormhole-based, because why spend near incalculable amounts of time to get somewhere when you can spend near incalculable amounts of energy to bend space-time? So yes, that is universal in the literal sense. Now, some of you might be asking, but what about Zoophona? Well, Zoophona, like its creator, has many issues, most notable being that there's technically a 4-way length distinction in vowels, and that it only has 2 phonemes. So the phonology of Masjodi is fairly notable for being completely symmetric in the obstruents and the vowels. Palatal consonants are usually analyzed as their alveolar equivalents followed by yod because of this syllable structure. The labials ma and pa can also precede any coronal, which is a bold choice considering that none of the source languages really have sesquisyllabic labials. With all that said, the phonemes are mananyanga patachaka vadajaga fathashakhala yara I o e a o.
Hey, can we do a mic check on that?
Grindosnert.
Huh.
Okay, so obviously the sounds what Tabby gave were not quite what you're expecting, but they are in the correct range. As a matter of fact, they're recognized allophones in stuttered, educated Masjodi. Yes, while the small inventory allows a considerable amount of free variation, there is a correct accent that is prescribed somewhat, the most notable feature being voice obstruents being stops or fricatives depending on how high the following vowel is. Also, the palatal lateral ya is almost always delateralized to ya, as the tongue is very limited in some species. Yod as the phoneme does not occur on its own, and the phoneme is rare anyways. The palatals are also alveolo-palatal before front vowels and retroflex elsewhere. Now, the rhotic among mammals, although generally tending towards alveolars and velars, are quite variable. From anything that doesn't involve the lips closing, thank you very much for humans, to the many cat languages which always have at least 2 rhotics for some reason. So what does Masjodi use for the rhotic? Why, it's the fucking retroflex trill. A funny thing is that the tense E is to be found in the unstressed syllables and the lax I in stressed ones. Holy shit, Tabby is such a pain to edit. Okay, so something I noticed just today, I fixed it just now, but this marker's pen cap was not fully on for God knows how many months, so yeah, it's just dry, go figure. Also, that, I did not write that. That is ultra French, I think. I mean, I don't remember writing this, but I do know that I wrote that. I did not write that. So, what the heck is going on? Also, don't ask what that is. Okay, leading question, how do numbers work? So, compared to other languages, Masjodi numbers are almost identical to Arabic numerals in the way they're read. The least significant digit is read out unless it's 0, and then all subsequent numbers are read from least to most significant. Now, in another video, probably, I mentioned that Masjodi uses both decimal and octal, and some of you might be wondering how that works. How this functions is that each digit has its own base, which is reflected in the coda as for decimal and n for octal. This can, of course, be generalized to fit any base, such as for duodecimal, but there are obviously a finite amount of consonants in Masjodi and a technically infinite amount of bases. Shout out to for quaternary, though. Bonus points for not even being in the phonology. Which is represented in the script by palatalizing the vowel. Okay, if you're wondering what that even means, panic, but this is going to be relief to many of you. It has its own ad hoc neography, and it's a feature writing system. So the consonants are generated in a grid with a vertical set for the manner of articulation and a horizontal set for the place of articulation. Also, erotic is considered part of the Wheeler series, naturally. The verticality of the script basically maximizes the amount of text you can put in a single line, which is a notable feature were it not for the fact that all the letter forms are way too similar. The vowels are only distinguished from the consonants by the lack of a horizontal component being only the vertical stem. There's also a neat symmetry in the back vowels, and the vowel height is kind of represented too. The consonants join together with the following vowel to form one contiguous block of CV or CCV, sometimes even CCCV, which might remind some of cuneiform. There's also a this thing, which acts as a word separator when it's written in scripta continua, because of course this can be written in scripta continua. A minor complication is that the pre-release labials have reduced versions, which are being used more and more often to represent mandpa at the start of any consonant cluster. So while mnemonic is always spelled like this, ouvert composat might be spelled like this. A very fun thing is that the writing direction is completely up to the writer, because of course it is, but the practice of bastrophodon is encouraged. Okay, while the system is very easy to learn, it is a bit difficult to learn how to read it. Fortunately, there's romanization, and it's not very cursed either. Trust me, I would know. The Wheeler nasal is spelt with a Q for ASCII compatibility, the palatos are spelt with a J because yod is a phoneme after all, and the close central vowels is a Y, which shouldn't be too surprising. Seriously, want an update on that? Earlier today, I found a parcel that my doppelganger was planning to send, so I know both her name and her father's postal address, and that she doesn't even know how to spell the name of the city she lives in. So I asked Kat to translate a letter into Khopcham. The address is in Odense. The language that's most spoken along the coast in Xinjiang is Khopcham. They'll see that it's headed for China, so they'll go to Taiwan. Taiwan is Japanese controlled to Nagasaki and then to Beijing. Or I could just go to France because my city is international airport and it goes to Montpellier. First of all, this route is twice as expensive, but also there's the threat of Sudanese anti-air shooting it down. So Mosh is a language spoken roughly around the north coast of and is named after the English Channel. Do not ask what language is spoken in the Channel Islands. Now, you might be asking, how is this language related to Masjodi? Well, Masjodi just takes like half of this grammar from Mosh. For instance, there's a difference between alienable and inalienable possession in Mosh, and so much Masjodi. In Mosh, alienable possession is marked with a suffix and the inalienable possession is marked with a genitive, which is a prefix. And as this is in Mosh, Masjodi must have it too. This is kind of an ongoing problem with Oxlangs, where the grammar is straight up copied from English. Mosh is a descendant of English, so Masjodi technically suffers from this too, but Mosh's grammar is more like ancient Greek than English, so I guess some people would give it a pass. I should probably make a video on Mosh, mostly to explain the difference between classical and ecclesiastical Mosh, because the differences that exist are certainly something. Babshis. Yeah. Masjodi has an infix. Kiqūq is to blame for this. But why? Okay, so imagine for a second if Charlemagne was Danish instead of Albanian, and his speech patterns started being replicated by everyone. That's basically exactly what happened in Kiqūq.
Also, I may go to
Dagmar.
A literal cough occurred at the end of phrases and in words with emphasis, which later became topic marking, which would later become the vulgar accusative, and reduplicated in the imperative mood. Yes, the topic is typically at the end of sentences because of this. This cough is written both in the orthography and the romanization as a dot below, and 2 dots for the imperative for obvious reasons. Speaking of semantic writing, Kiqūq dictionaries handle grammatical gender weirdly, which is honestly fair considering grammatical gender has rarely existed in the language for 80 years. Due to printing press shenanigans, the 3 genders are marked with a pound sign for masculine, a pound sign for feminine, and a sharp symbol for neuter. I should probably talk about the stuff that's actually related to the translation, now that most of you have already left. Word order is subject, verb, direct object, indirect object, except in most clauses, where the direct object comes before the verb. Adjectives follow the noun, follow the corresponding genitive. There are 3 prepositions or locative cases, depending on your analysis. I'll be treating them as cases because I just like the word enough, and it doesn't matter in script to continue anyway. The translation of the following text features a lot of derivation as well as an unnatural amount of genitives. There's also an algorithm by certain Olivier Secrenu to turn a certain piece of prose into a melody based on the vowels present in it. I will not be doing this for the translation because the definition is much too vague. Gopsi somchaki plitsenga. Sud gopsi do yvaro dis sovajeg benchutisum rubeng so damthom ngukogenum bainoat benchuyub. Gopsi sodu gengva ches songzoina. Benat mirva vego marathoi venchuvuch. Du tratmlothoi crescanda yong sasohech kotegopsile. Du sunothoi so crescancon yong kunpshem bainoatom. Danut ngachadome. Job dike thoi vequom. Vuchchadum reisat. Gopsis hohech gepte beni patagahate brukom. Dong hech ngehechdes pingate dong ngosavikran ngosanakran. Okay, just look at my stream for a second.
Okay, alright, I'm in.
So this is French Wikipedia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I change the URL to a that is Ultra French
What?
Wikipedia.
They made that? Who made that? That's insane.
Yeah, I know, and the funny thing is, I posted a joke about an Ultra French Wikipedia on Blue Sky like a month ago.
What? So, what, you like Play God?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, it's September 15th, right?
Yeah, it's deadline for the CCC4 and I don't have anything to show for it.
Do you think if Agma, like, suddenly disappeared, that'd help with your deadline?
Yeah, okay, hold on.